Hi! I recently play tested several Kimony products and I'll share my review in this video. Now if you're unfamiliar with the Kimony brand, they're a Japan-based company dedicated to making the ultimate in tennis and badminton accessories, from grips to stringing tools. Kimony was founded by Kazumi Kimoto in 1977. His intense passion for the game of tennis inspired him to create high-quality products for over 30 years and is well recognized by the racket stringing community. Alright, let's check it out. Alright, so we're going to start off with the awls that Kimony has, and they have 5, but I only have 4 here. The one that's missing is the curved awl, and I don't really use that, so I didn't include that in this review. So we're going to start off with your all-purpose awl, and that's the short awl. And what I like about all of these Kimony awls is that it has a very strong tip. I was wondering if it's some kind of special metal. I asked the contact person there, and he had told me that it's a stainless steel metal, but it's black in color, so I just was wondering if it was some special kind of strong metal. This one doesn't have a very pointed tip, and I like that because I have a couple awls here. These had a very sharp tip, but eventually they actually broke off. So you don't really need a sharp point, I feel, on an awl. Typically what you're going to use this awl for is to, one, you can probe the grommet to check if they're broken. And I did another video where I'll leave the link down below. So it's easy to hold because it's short, and you can handle it like this just by holding it and probing the awl that way. I actually use a badminton awl for this, and it's even shorter. But again, if you don't want to buy a whole bunch of awls, then this would be your all-purpose awl. Next up, we have the long awl, and this one does have a little bit sharper tip. What this is good for is for very tight holes, if you're really trying to get in there, where this one, the short awl, has a little bit thicker point there. So, but what you have to watch out for when you have a long awl like this is to make sure that you don't bend it. I have my other Babolat one here that I use all the time, and it does have a little bend to it. So if you run it along a table like this, like you're trying to check a cue stick, if it's warped, yeah, I can see it actually. It's not perfectly straight anymore, but I like this because it's gold. Now here's an awl I really love. It's called a Grommet Awl, and what's unique about this is it's very thick and it has a nice taper. So if I bring this up and you can compare that to the short awl, you can see how much thicker that is right there on this one. So this is specifically used to remove and install grommets. So I'll do a quick demonstration here. And typically if you're using your short or even a long awl, you might end up bending it a little bit, so you don't want to risk that. So what I have here is a bumper guard that I'm just going to insert into the bumper to help try to start it along here before I remove the entire bumper guard. And if I install a bumper guard, then just doing it in reverse, you're going to typically be helping it along the way and trying to get it into the hole. And again, using this awl, there's less chance of the awl bending. So you might be tempted though to use this awl to remove staples if you're taking off a grip and you need to remove it, but I would not recommend using it for that purpose. I have a special awl for that, and I would use something more heavy duty, something like this. Now if you want to learn more about awls, I did another video and I'll post the link down below. So now we have one more awl, but I'll have to string this racket up and I'll talk about the setting awl last. Alright, I completed the racket, so we can take a look at Kimony's setting awl, and most people call it the setting off awl. But I'm going to show you a couple other setting off awls first. And here's the one I've been using for the last 30 years. It's a Babolat. And what I like about it is the handle. I mean, it's nice and big, so it fits into your hand really nicely. And the material is a rubberized material, so it feels like there's a lot of nice grip in it. And so again, I've been using this for the last 30 years and never felt a need to replace it. Here's another one that's similar. It's made by Gosen. I like it because of the handle, similar to the Babolat. Nice and big, fits right in your hand. It's made out of a harder plastic though, so I wish this was rubberized. And it's very similar in terms of the length of the actual tip, but you notice how it's about an inch shorter here. So when using this, I feel like this is actually I like it. I mean, I like it to be a little bit shorter. It feels like it's a little bit quicker going into each string, having something a little bit shorter. Now let's take a look at the Kimony. So you can see, first of all, we'll compare the tip. And I did measure it earlier, but I'll just make sure that I got the right measurement. So the tip on this one is 2.5. This one is 2 3/8 inches. And then this one comes in at 2 inches. So having it this short, I feel like it's, I don't feel like I have as much leverage with something that's longer like these two. So that's one con about this, this awl. The other thing is I noticed the thickness of the awl itself. These two came in at about 6 millimeters in diameter, and this one at 5. It just doesn't feel as substantial as these two. And of course the handle is not big like these, so it doesn't really fit in your hand very well. And I've seen other stringers that actually wrap over grips or grips on top of it, which makes total sense to build it up to this. But I just feel like with this Kimony Awl as is, it almost feels like a toy. Sorry, Kimony. Now here's a sharp string bed cutter. And what I mean by sharp, literally sharp. And that was the first thing I was impressed by this string bed cutter. So here's a sharpness test that I did. And I have a, what I'm gonna do is just run this over grip along this flat blade, not the serrated side. So I have an overgrip here, and I'm just going to run it down that blade, and you'll see it just slice right through it. So I did this with my Babolat string bed cutter, and it was not doing the same. And it's 30 years old, so what I decided to do is get it sharpened. So I don't have it here, but I have a picture of it. The other thing is it's very lightweight compared to my Babolat. I weighed it, it's 102 grams, and my Babolat is 3 times the weight. It's 328 grams. But in terms of the weight, I think I prefer something heavier. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it, and I'll tell you why. But again, it's very sharp, so it just cuts right through the strings with no problem. Now, as far as having that serrated end of the serrated blade, what's useful about that, and I'll bring it up here so you can see that. So you can see that one side is serrated, and the other side doesn't have that serrations right there. So, but what you want to do is have a serrated blade, because when you're cutting the strings, it actually grabs onto the string and it doesn't slide back. If you ever cut with string bed cutters that don't have that blade, you'll know what I mean. So in terms of the weight, I just felt like the Babolat feels more substantial. And one of the things that I do with the string bed cutter after I cut the strings is I'll put it in its closed position, and I'll use the edge of the string bed cutter to kind of separate the strings like that. So I noticed that when I was doing this, well, not so much on this racket, but strings that get really stuck, having that extra weight just felt like it plowed through the strings a little bit easier. What I did like about this though is the edges of the blades on the outside are kind of rounded. So when you're running, if you're using this technique where you're using that to separate the strings, it doesn't get stuck. I've seen some other string bed cutters that have a kind of sharp edge, so then it gets kind of stuck. So I did like the sharpness, but not so much the weight. I did want to mention one more thing, which would explain the sharpness of the blade of these Kimony string bed cutters. When I went into the knife sharpening guide to get my Babolat one sharpened, I showed him these, and he noticed that it's made by Kai. And I found out that Kai is a Japan high quality knife company. So that's a great collaboration of Kimony and Kai. Here's a cool way that you can use the Kimony starting block to start your mains, but not on the outside of the frame. I'm actually going to use it on the inside. So I have a 2-piece stringing, and I ran the string through. It's centered right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and run a second main through here without tension, and it doesn't matter if you start with the right or left side. But as I'm pulling this string through here, I need to make sure that I keep the center loop in place, because sometimes when you're pulling this string, it can kind of move this around. So you want to make sure that this is going to stay centered, and hold it right here. All right, so the first, I'm going to go ahead and clamp the string that I just installed. And that's where I'm going to put the starting block. Now what's good about this is it has a slot there for the string to go into, but at the very top there's a hole, that circle. And that happens to fit right over at least most grommet barrels. So it's a perfect fit for having this starting block right up against the frame, and that hole allowing for that grommet barrel. So I'm going to go ahead and place it there. And I'm going to bring my string clamp up to it and just press up against it, and clamp it there, and then clamp the base. And you can see that it's just staying up there, so it's good that it can do that. Otherwise, there's other starting methods where you have to hold the clamp up in place while you pull tension, but right now it's staying right in place. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to apply tension to this main string here, but it's actually on the opposite side of this clamp. Well, on this clamp I can go all the way around here, but on most stringing machines, electronic, the string clamp can actually reach over one string. So if yours is that type, then you can use this method. So I'm going to go ahead and apply tension to the other main string on the opposite side. Now what I'm going to do is apply tension to this side. I'm using the one string overlap, so I can go one more string before I have to go back to that other side. And I'm trying not to hit the camera, so I'm going to move this around this way. All right, so I got tension here. So now I have two on the left side and one on this side. So now I can come back to this side, apply tension here. And that's when I can remove the starting block. So the rest I'll proceed like normal, but this is a cool way to use this starting block. If you install tubing on broken grommets, here is urethane tubing that Kimony offers. Now if you already have nylon tubing, this would still be a good addition to this because of the fact that this tubing is a lot thinner and it's lighter and flexible. So I did another video, tubing installation tips and techniques, so you can see the ways that I use these two different tubing. But again, if you don't even use tubing, then I would recommend this because of the fact that it can fit into tight holes. One of the things I liked about it is when you insert the string into the tubing, this is a 16 gauge multi-filament string. Again, it's very thin, so you really have to make sure you get it in there, but it has a kind of a tight fit. In fact, it almost feels like this tubing creates a second skin, and I like that because of the fact that it's snug to the string. So that works really well. Now this roll that Kimony sells comes in about 32 feet. And I'll give you more details at the end of this video, but if you want to purchase just 10 feet, which I think is enough because you don't use a whole lot of tubing, I'll be happy to cut off 10 feet and sell it to you. Do you know what this is? It's a $250 starting clamp, and it's made by Toyozuki for Kimony and Yonex. I have an example of a Yonex one here, but the Kimony one has their own label. And for you stringy geeks out there, you know that this is the Cadillac of all starting clamps. But is it really worth $250? Well, I thought the same thing too. So what I did is I did a video where I play test and reviewed this along with the Babolat red starting clamp, and this is their latest version. And they were comparable, and if you haven't checked out that video, make sure you do. One of the advantages of this clamp though is that it's adjustable here, so you can actually adjust the pressure of the clamp similar to the string clamps on a stringing machine. And again, if you haven't checked out that video, I would recommend doing that, and you can make the call. Here I have Kimony's power pads, and it comes in a pack of 5 strips, and they're about 8 inches in length, and it comes in the brown or black. Now, I don't normally use power pads, or at least I don't buy them because I custom make mine, but I bought these just for the purpose of this review. So I already installed 2 of them, but I wanted to mention that it is pretty thick. It's 2.65 millimeters when I measured it, and it does have that adhesive backing. So I have the last one here that I'm going to install, and I'm going to take off the backing. And what I want to make sure that I do is when I insert the power pad is to make sure that it's on the section of the grommet that the string is going to bend around, but to make sure that the power pad is going to allow the string to be centered in that pad itself. So now that I have it in position, and it's good that it has that adhesive backing because you can see that it'll stay in place right there. But I'm going to go ahead and apply tension here. And you can see it stayed right in place there. So there's some pretty power pads. Kimony does offer 2 stringing tools that are not pictured on their website. One is a pair of nippers, and the other is a bent nose pliers. Both are made by Fujiya. Now, I didn't pick these up, so I didn't include it in my review, but if you own these tools and have experience with them and would like to comment, maybe I'll pick them up and review them. Now, with all this exciting talk about Kimony tools, you may wonder, where can I get them, or how much do they cost? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you live in the US, I have a couple options for you. One, I recently became a Kimony dealer, so if you'd like to support this channel, I'll happily sell you whatever you need. And if I don't have the item in stock, you can order directly from Kimony USA, located in New York. As for the cost, anything you see on the Kimony website, I'll match that price. As for the shipping, everything is mailed USPS, whether you order from AM Stringing or Kimony, so I think the cost will be comparable. If you don't live in the US, comment where you live, and I'll be happy to find where you can order them in your country or nearby. Or if you'd like, I can find out how much it would cost to mail it to you overseas. Thanks for watching, happy stringing, and let your strings play. Well, if you ever need your blade sharpened, I know a guy in Kona.